Okay, we're live now, but we like to wait until everybody can hear me in the chat room, and that's what, oh my goodness, it's the quickest I've ever seen it. Sound is good. Sound is good, my friends. There's a light chat room today, but that's okay, because we have the best people here that we need. Eddie and Teresa Heckman are back. Lenny's here, of course. That's an important one. Mal Palantina are two important ones. Unholy Toledo. And guess what? Really, Lenny said, don't expect that many people in the chat room today. And I said, well, we got Unholy Toledo. We got Mal Pal. We got Eddie. We got Captain Danny. We have Data Premier here. I know Boston Paul should show up any day. He likes to be fashionably late. The hookster Daniel Ferrara is somewhere around, but it doesn't seem like he's by his computer. And it doesn't matter, because what we do here is we just make way to talk some baseball, to get away from the crazy world that we live in, and just make some jokes, have some fun, talk some shit. No kids in the chat room, so I leave it to Eddie to let me know when one of his grandkids is around, and then I try to watch my language. And I know Turd is here. He's going to Myrtle Beach. That's one of our favorite places. Someday I might live in Myrtle Beach. I just loved it there. We used to go there when we would take our road trips, and it's just a wonderful place to be. Great, beautiful ocean. And really, Myrtle Beach is it's one of the most underrated places. It's got literally everything you can imagine, especially if you have kids. It's got wax museums, theme parks, entertainment. Like, they have Broadway on the beach. I mean, they really do have just about everything in Myrtle Beach, and I'm not going to tell too many people, because if they all go there, then I won't be able to go there. But good morning to Chris Gallo. Good morning to Turd. Good morning to Eddie Heckman. And, he's going for a work stop. So, all right, you got to work there, but it's still a beautiful place to be. I don't know about the weather this time of year. We always went right around Thanksgiving. In fact, we spent a couple Thanksgivings in Myrtle Beach, and the weather is really pretty perfect there during Thanksgiving. I can imagine it's probably humid at this point. Good morning to Boston Paul. Good morning to Malpal. Okay, let's get going. Captain Danny, have you recovered from your wonderful day at Dodger Stadium? I know Danny's a big pesky Dodgers fan, and his son is a big Giants fan, so that must have been a fun time for the father and son duo, the Fuller family, going to see their two teams rival each other. Unfortunately, I think the damn Dodgers won again. Okay, so let's talk about the Mets. Once we talk about the Mets, and good morning to Owens, and also we must summon Laura. Okay, because when we summon Laura, she does show up. Now, I don't know if it's just coincidence, but it seems to be working, so I'm just going to keep trying it. Okay, and I'm going to skip the Mets talk until Laura gets here, so hang tight on the Mets, because we have some exciting stuff, and we also, Eddie Heckman, Mr. O's Insider, we have some interesting stuff to talk about the O's. What a great trade they made. Really good for both teams if you think about it. Mostly good for the Orioles, but an interesting thing came up this morning talking to Boston Paul. He said that he had Eflin on the trade block. He had made some offers to trade Eflin away, and now he pulled all of those offers back. Now he's keeping Eflin. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, and I want you to just think about that for a second. As a fantasy manager should, think about these things from a different perspective than the normal everyday baseball fan. So we'll talk about that later too. And of course, we have lots of tidbits and lots of nuggets. Good morning to Tommy Johnson, another fan favorite of the chat room. The Arizona Diamondbacks, though, they're starting to loom quite large in the rearview mirror of the NL wildcard leaders. They're just one game back now. They've won 15 of their last 22 games. Their 15 wins since June 29th are tied for the most in Major League Baseball with the New York Mets. And even though I promised I wouldn't talk about the Mets, they just seem to sneak into the conversation constantly right now. And one of the reasons is because of how good they've been. The Phillies deal with the Orioles. Austin Hayes. Okay. This was a long time coming. We've been talking about this since the beginning of the season with all of the Orioles youngsters coming up, wanting to get playing time. Austin Hayes was being pushed out the back door. Slowly but surely, this had to happen. You have a lot of talk on X. Of course, people love to dog on any player who has religious beliefs, but he likes to pray before games, and all of the wokesters in the industry, they just can't stand it. So, of course, they're happy to see Austin Hayes go, and they're saying, oh, well, you know, he didn't want to celebrate Gay Pride Night, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. It doesn't really have anything to do with any of that. The one thing it has to do with most is the fact that they have young stars who deserve to make these long-term contracts. They deserve to play. The front office so far has not inked any of these youngsters to long-term deals, and the farm system is spilling over. The youngest players stuck in baseball's quadruple A. Basically, it's too good for the minors and no spot to play in the majors every day. Austin Hayes, what's he good at? What's he not so good at? Obviously, if you're a fan of the Orioles, you look at Austin Hayes and say you're just a waste of time. He's not good enough to keep his job over these great prospects that they have, these exciting youngsters, right? One thing he's very good at is he crushes left-handed pitchers. Austin Hayes will platoon now with Brandon Marsh, okay? He's going to the Phillies, and one thing I didn't like was that he already started throwing shade at the Orioles as soon as he got to the Phillies. He said, now I feel like I have an even better chance to win a World Series now that I'm on the Phillies. I don't know how the Orioles fans feel about that. It could be a Orioles-Phillies World Series. It wouldn't be that far off to think of that. The Orioles got Sir Anthony Dominguez and Christian Pache in this specific trade, but they also have another trade going where they got some pitching in Zach Eflin. But anyway, going back to Austin Hayes, he's probably not going to have everyday playing time. He's not somebody that you want to rush out and get as a fantasy manager. But I would be a little concerned about Brandon Marsh losing playing time because of Austin Hayes. And if you're a Brandon Marsh manager, you should know that he's going to be sitting against lefties if he wasn't already. All right, now we're going to go back to the Orioles in just a minute. Big L on the prowl. Great to see you. How about this, Unholy? Wokesters should mind their own effing business. Wokesters should mind their own Eflin business, okay? We're talking about Eflin today a lot, so I just decided to plug him in because that's great. The Red Sox now, how do you feel about this, Boston Paul? They get James Paxton back. Danny, I'm sure there's going to be some rivalry in the chat room today between Captain Danny and Boston Paul, who, pesky Danny, I'm sure was happy to push off James Paxton back to the Red Sox. Boy, oh boy, the Red Sox didn't lose much, and rightfully so, because James Paxton is questionable at best. They sent 17-year-old corner infielder Moises Boulevard to the Dodgers. And the Boston Red Sox transferred pitcher Brian Mata to the 60-day injured list to make room for Paxton on the 40-man roster. Now, Paxton did pitch 19 games for the Red Sox last season, and then he signed with the Dodgers as a free agent for this season. He went 8-2 in 18 total appearances. His ERA is over 4, specifically 4.43. His whip is horrible, 1.46. 64 strikeouts and 48 walks in 89 and a third innings. Think of that. Almost as many walks as strikeouts, which is pretty bad. Okay? No wonder the Dodgers wanted to see him go away. It was a surprising decision that they designated him for assignment earlier this week, but starting pitching depth was one of the Red Sox needs, and I don't think this really fits the bill if they're trying to win. So any Red Sox fan out there is probably not pleased. Boston Paul likes it. He thinks Paxton is a good pickup. Oh, good grief. Merrill is here. Orioles almost desperately need to stop counting on Craig Kimbrell to save games. He is a Hall of Fame reliever, but he's way past his prime. Merrill thinks they should try to get Tanner Scott of Miami or Kyle Finnegan to come in and take that critical role. Yes, you're right. They do need to address this because as good as Craig Kimbrell has been in his career, he is past his prime. I agree with Merrill 100%. Danny Fuller, Captain Pesky Dodger fan Danny, says keep Jansen and you can have Paxton. I don't agree. I think Paxton is useless for the Red Sox if they want to win, if they're trying to get in the playoffs. James Paxton does nothing. He walks as many batters as he strikes out, which is just not even MLB relevant at all. That's my opinion. Eddie Heckman says the Orioles lost again, but the fireworks and the hot dogs and those warehouse dogs look so good. Okay? Giving up nothing. Well, they gave up a 17-year-old prospect, so we don't really know if it's nothing yet, but as far as what this year is concerned, it is pretty much nothing. Good morning to J.R. Matz. Good morning to the Mottsinger family. Good morning to Moose, Mikey, Danny. Hopefully Moose is having a great time at drama camp. And Mitchell Hartson is here. Good morning to Mitchell and Merrill together, the twin Hartson brothers in the house. J.R. Matt says that the Red Sox have a lot of promising pitchers in the minors, and they just let them languish there, and that means they're clueless. Mitchell says that the Dodgers should acquire Taillon and Quantrill, which reminds me of Quantrill the other day. Cal Quantrill telling Reese McGuire off, dude. If you don't know, you should look it up. It was pretty darn funny, okay? From my point of view, it's hilarious. Okay. Let's see. The Red Sox, they did have a need for pitching depth ahead, and they still do. They still need to add either a reliever, right? Because they are stuck with Kenley Jansen, who is along the same lines as Kimbrell, if you want to look at it like, Hall of Famer maybe with Kenley Jansen. Great career as a closer, past his prime. But we're talking about relief pitchers specifically, and they need another right-handed bat. The Red Sox still need some upgrades. They did start a rivalry series with the Yankees, who, by the way, were swept by the Mets. And you let me know when Laura gets here so we can talk about the Mets, because I have a lot of nuggets. All right, so the Red Sox are playing the Yankees at Fenway Park. It started yesterday. Boston entered yesterday one game behind the Royals for the third and final wild card playoff spot in the American League. So they're hanging on by a thread. Now let's talk about Zach Eflin. And as I mentioned, but I'll mention again because some of you weren't here yet. Talking to Boston Paul this morning, said he has Eflin on a team. This is a very competitive team of his. In fact, it's winning the league right now. The record is he's got like 3 losses, but basically Boston Paul has the best record in the league, and this is King Hap's league that we're talking about. Now, he has Zach Eflin, and he said to me this morning, I had Zach Eflin out in trade offers, and I withdrew them all. He said he withdrew the trade offers. He's keeping Eflin. He said Baltimore, baby. And I said, okay. Well, of course, I want to know a lot more things about this. I'm a big Eflin fan, okay? But I say to myself, hold on a minute. Number one, Zach Eflin, I'm going to tell you, I wasn't really sure if Orioles Park or Camden Yards, and I wasn't really sure if it was a hitter or I couldn't remember if it was a hitter or a pitcher park, so I went to look it up. It used to be, if you Google it, it says that in 2022, Camden Yards was considered pitcher friendly. And remember, in 2023, they did the renovations, and Lenny and I talked a lot about these renovations when they were happening, about what it's going to do to the hitters. And we thought it was going to make it worse for the hitters, but it's actually not harmed the hitters at all. In fact, left-handed hitters are much better now at Camden Yards. It became hitter-friendly again in 2023, all right? The park in Tampa, Tropicana Field, is a pitcher's park overall. So you look at Eflin and you say, okay, yes, definitely going to a better team. The Tampa Rays are giving up on the season by this trade, because what they gave up was a lot of youngsters. They gave up outfielder Matthew Etzel, right-handed pitcher Jackson Baumeister, and super utility man Mac Horvath. So it seems to me that the Rays are preparing for a rebuild at this point, giving up Eflin. Eflin had an ERA over 4, but if you look closer, you see that Eflin at home in Tampa Bay had an ERA of 2.25, and away from Tampa Bay Tropicana Field, his ERA was 5.32, which tells me the pitcher's park in Tropicana Field was helping him out a lot this year. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Eflin as a pitcher, but what I am saying is you can get more for Eflin now that he's an Oriole, even though he's going to a hitter's park and he's not pitching well anymore.
Boston Paul's here.
Yes, Boston Paul. So Boston Paul, of course, I knew he would do this, which is good. He's defending his reasoning. He says Orioles Park is not a hitter's park, Andrea. Well, what I do know is that Tampa is a pitcher's park. So regardless of whether or not Orioles is a hitter's or a pitcher's, let's just agree to disagree that it's actually a neutral park. So we'll say that it's a neutral park. But Zach Eflin was great at home in a pitcher's park and horrible on the road wherever he may have gone. Now, I'm not saying that matters for everything, but I do know that his price tag just went up because he's going to a winning team in Baltimore. And yes, he's going to get more run support in Baltimore, no doubt about it. He is on a winning team. He is going to get more run support, but is he going to pitch any better? I will say no. In fact, it could be quite the opposite. So thinking that, I'm going to keep Eflin now just because he's going to the Orioles is not really thinking things through from a fantasy manager perspective. In fact, if you had him out for trade offers, you might want to up those trade offers now, because if you could afford to trade him away before he was an Oriole, you certainly can afford to trade him away now, and you can actually get something better than what you were going to get with his mediocre 2024 stats. Now, let me see what he's saying. And yes, Tampa sucks compared to the firepower. Orioles lineup alone will help any pitcher. Yes, for run support. But do they have good defense? Let me ask you that. I do not know the answer to that question. But that's the first thing that comes to mind. You talk about he's going to pitch better. Well, if he has a better defense behind him, maybe. But Tampa Bay is known for their good defense, so I don't know for sure that Orioles have that. Maybe they do. They're definitely a better team this year. Orioles have the ammunition to make any deal they choose. Yes, they do. Malpal says the Orioles are struggling, and it's because their pitching isn't good. They didn't replace Bradish. I agree. Adding Eflin will help them, but I still think, wait for it, they should sign Trevor Bauer. Flaherty did not impress when he was with Baltimore. That's from Mitchell Hartson. And Owens is here. Great to see you, Owens. He says the O's get Corbin Burns and Eflin without giving up top prospects. Boston Paul says when you're on a winning team, it's contagious. Malpal brings up the fact that Eflin is clearly a different pitcher now. Yes. So, yes, we're going to talk about the Mariners. They decided to trade Stanek to the Mets, and they got Yimmy. So that is interesting. Very interesting. They need damn hitting, right? What are they doing? Is that why you think is that why you brought it up? It's just too weird. They trade away a reliever, get a reliever, but they didn't address their hitting problem. Comerica. Isn't that Detroit?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so watch what Houston Astros do. They are the team to beat if they get a good starting pitcher, and that is true. Malpel and Mitchell says that Houston is his favorite American League team to go to the World Series. Tucker is back soon. That's right. Now, Tanner Scott is almost certain to be traded within the next 4 days. Him and Carlos Estevez are the top 2 rental relievers on the market. The Marlins are willing to listen to anybody on their roster and already traded one key bullpen piece last night. Scott has been a known target for the likes of the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Orioles, and the Phillies dating back to the middle of June. Interest in the hard-throwing southpaw surely extends beyond that group of 4, and Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic wrote on Thursday night that the Royals are also looking into Scott. Is Laura here?
No.
Leonard Donaldson is here. Good morning to see Leonard Donaldson, okay? Javier Baez has homered in back-to-back games. Whoop-de-doo, Javier Baez went 1 for 4 with the 2-run home run in yesterday's 9-3 loss to the Twins. Where's King Hap when you want to talk about his ridiculous bet on Pablo Lopez? Baez took Pablo Lopez deep in the 3rd innings after providing all the Tigers' offense in Thursday's win with a 3-run homer. He's now homered in back-to-back games for the first time since 2023. Prior to those 2 homers, Javi Baez had not gone deep since April 14th in what has been a rough year for him. The 31-year-old is batting .179 with 3 homers, and that sucks. Okay, Javi Baez sucks. You know who else sucked yesterday? Trevor Bauer sucked. He pitched 2 1/3, 7 hits, 7 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. You hate to see it, but it's true. It happens to everybody eventually, right? I have to talk about the good, bad, and the ugly, all right, with you people. So that's how it is. Boston Paul, exactly. You two are both homers. Yes, Baez was a terrible signing. I have to admit that. And I don't know what they did with Javi Baez Way in Chicago, but is it still there, Unholy? Javi Baez Way? Boston Paul says he only drafted Eflin because I was so in love with him. That makes me feel proud, though. He is good. All I heard, him and Logan Webb. Eflin. I like both of those guys. You know it. And I don't think Logan Webb is average. Okay. We'll see how it turns out. Eflin was just a score last year for the money that I paid for him.
White Sox Al.
White Sox Al, welcome aboard. Jason Dominguez, the Yankees' top prospect, number 25 in baseball. He delivered an RBI single in his first game back for the AAA team. He was out since June 15th, so Jason Dominguez is back. He should be coming up soon. No, Bauer doesn't have the plague, but he does have some, what's the other one? Cholera. Cholera is what I think Bauer got in Mexico from drinking the damn water. It's too funny. Maybe that's why he pitched so crappy, but everybody has a bad day, right? Citi Field, I guess Laura's not coming, so here we go. We're talking about Citi Field, and it's a happy place, and I know we have a couple other Mets fans in the chat room, like Rotorius and Leonard Donaldson is an Astros fan, but Rotorius, I know, is a Mets fan with me. Okay, so let's go back to the top because we're going to talk about the Mets. On June 3rd, the Braves were 10.5 games up on the Mets. The Mets just passed them to hold the first wild card. Okay, also, Kodai Senga is injured again. He exited his first start back from the injured list, but he didn't exit till the 6th inning, so I don't really know for sure, but he appeared to be in a lot of pain when he chased a pop-up. He eventually rose to his feet and walked off the field under his own power. The Mets have announced that Senga now has a left calf strain. Good news is that it's not an Achilles injury, because you know those damn Achilles, you could just ask Mike Soroka about those. But calf strains can take several weeks for it to heal. Now, the Mets are in a position they need to invest in some starting pitching. They have Christian Scott injured now, and now Kodai Senga. It's not that, they haven't used Kodai Senga all year, so it's not like he's a minus, but when you have Christian Scott injured, Kodai Senga injured, they need some starting pitching if they're serious, and obviously they're serious. How about Trevor Bauer? You could get him for the minimum. He wants a chance to prove himself. Don't people believe in second chances? You got a guy here that won the damn Cy Young. He's been in all-star games and pitched in all-star games all over the world. He's obviously determined to keep pitching. He's resilient. He's got mound presence. He's confident, and he's ready to play for the league minimum. If you want to win, the time is now. Okay? Did I give a good and passionate plea for Trevor Bauer? Oh my gosh. I'm like the only one entertained by myself, okay? Okay, so let's talk about Citi Field. It's a happy place. You could thank the Rally Pimp. You could thank Grimace. You could thank all kinds of things. You could thank the fans for cheering on Lindor in his darkest days, okay? Because ever since they did it, just like the Phillies did for Trey Turner, Lindor has been outstanding. JD Martinez now, grand slam, okay? He's 36 years old, but his counting stats are still pretty darn good. He's still productive, okay? And the only thing really keeping him down in fantasy is the fact that he only qualifies at DH, but definitely right now DH. Leonard?
Yes.
Were you going to say something?
No.
Turd is back! Whoop-de-doo. King Turd. He can be signed after August 1st. All right, why? Why is that? Why is he can be signed after August 1st, but others can't? The Mets are open to adding a left-handed bat. They've spoken to the Giants about Michael Conforto. I would ask Laura, but I'll ask you friends that are here this morning, what do you think about Michael Conforto going back to the Mets? How would you feel about a Michael Conforto reunion? If they did do that with the Giants, he would immediately replace DJ Stewart. Now, Francisco Alvarez hit the 3rd home run in an inning, and that was great. So that means the Mets hit 3 home runs in 1 inning. Mark Vientos leads all National League third basemen with 13 homers since he's been called up on May 15th. Let's move over to the Padres. Malpal's team, but not for much longer. Who are you going to root for in Tennessee, Malpal? Are you still going to root for the Padres? Are they even worth rooting for at this point until they get rid of the failure that is AJ in charge? Jurickson Profar is the most clutch hitter in baseball this year. The numbers say that. In high leverage at bats this year, he's got a 328 weighted runs created plus. Think of that, 328. The average is 100, okay? He's first in MLB in high leverage at bats. He's got a 636 WOBA, which is also first in Major League Baseball, and a 531 batting average, also the first in MLB, which makes him, as I said, the best clutch hitter in baseball. Data Premier says, yes, bring Conforto back. Absolutely. Jack Flaherty has been the subject of trade dialogue between the Tigers and the Astros, according to sources. You know how I love anonymous sources. So let's just tease King Hap, because what he's trying to do is wait for Pablo Lopez to get less than 204 strikeouts this year. That's his over-under that he did yesterday. This is why Hap is hiding from me today, sleeping in, probably trying to recover from getting drunk last night over Pablo Lopez. 7 innings pitched, 7 K, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk. Pablo Lopez looked great once again with his second consecutive starts of 7 innings. He allowed 2 runs or fewer. It's the first time he achieved this since April of last year. He's heating up with 4 quality starts in his last 6 outings, and he's seen his ERA go from 5.63 to 4.73 over that stretch. You can mark my words, expect Pablo Lopez to have a good second half of the season. Although I said that about Julio, and now he's on the injured list. Okay. 5 teams are said to have some level of interest in Blake Snell. He's looking better and historically a second half pitcher. So he's $30 million player option, which you know he's going to be cashing in on for next year. It's his option to accept the $30 million. That makes it tricky, but the Giants are listening on select players, mainly guys with expiring contracts. The Giants, speaking of, are 2-5 since the All-Star break, and that indicated to teams that they're willing to trade some of their veteran players. King Slap. That's right. Okay? All right. One possible scenario for the Giants, which we already talked about, is moving outfielder Michael Conforto or Mike Yastrzemski to open up some playing time for Luis Matos. Great to see you, Big Al. Nice to see you in the chat room. Another Mets fan. All right. How about Tyler Fitzgerald? He's a Giant, isn't he? 7 home runs in an 8-game span. Now, that is very rare for a shortstop. In fact, before last night, the last shortstop to hit 7 home runs in an 8-game span was Barry Bonds in 2004. But guess who else did it? Last night, Tyler Fitzgerald and Corey Seager. All right? Wait a minute. This doesn't make sense because it says right here that Trey Turner did it in 2023 and Gleyber Torres did it in 2016. So how could it be that the last guy to do it was Barry Bonds? Anyway, we're talking about Fitzgerald is who is on the topic of conversation right now. He went 3 for 5 with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, and 3 runs scored yesterday. Fitzgerald continues to put together a stunning surge in the second half. Dating back to July 9th, he has at least 1 extra base hit in 8 straight games, and that includes 7 homers, 2 doubles, and 1 triple. Good morning to Tito and Jeter Luna. Great to see you both in the chat room this morning, this fine Saturday. Okay, gotta go White Sox out. Thanks for stopping by, right? Thank you for stopping by. Oh, that's right, King Turd. It was the last San Francisco Giants to do it was Barry Bonds. That makes sense. Great, good going, Turd. But let's go back to Fitzgerald. He's batting .330 with a .400 on-base percentage, 8 home runs, 18 RBIs, and 24 runs scored, 7 stolen bases to add to that in 42 games so far. Yes, good idea. Boston Paul picked up Fitzy and dropped Abreu. Is that his nickname, Fitzy? Did we just make that up? Fitzy? Fitzgerald. His playing time obviously is looking more secure, and that is based solely on his bat. Thairo Estrada landed on the injured list on Friday. Look for Fitzgerald to handle a starting role at shortstop while Brett Wisely and Casey Schmidt share second base for the time being until Fitzy stops hitting, which who knows if that will happen. He's doing great. Go Fitzgerald. Okay, Kyle Harrison matches his career high with 11 strikeouts. This lefty ranks among the top 10 for qualified rookies in strikeout with 90 and strikeouts per 9, 8.3. Also quality starts. So yes, Malpal's formula comes through again. Kyle Harrison was one of the potential breakouts based on Malpal's great formula, which is easy to look at. And yes, you have to look a little deeper, but basically if you see that a young pitcher has a strikeout percentage plus ground ball percentage 70 or greater, they have a potential to bust out. Now, of course, if you got a guy that's walking 8 batters per 9 innings, then it's typically not going to pan out for you this year. But when you can keep the ball on the ground and strike out batters, that's a great combo, and it absolutely works. Every single year, we find a group of pitchers on this formula, and every single year, they come through. So it's worked, and it's not just the first year that it's worked. We've been looking at this formula for the 3 or 4 years. I've been looking at it for 3 or 4 years since Malpal shared it with me. But I don't know how long he's been looking at it. All I know is that it works every damn year. And Kyle Harrison was on the list for a potential breakout. And right now, he ranks among the top 10 for qualified rookies in all 3 of strikeouts per 9, and quality starts. So there you go. Whew, it's hot in my house. Yes, right, that's Paxton. 8 walks per 9 innings. That really hinders your chances of breaking out, okay? So the Cleveland team has won all of the last 64 games in which they had a lead going into the 9th inning, as do most teams, but it is a good record that they're on. It's a streak. I'll call it a streak. Transaction alert, Rhys Hines was optioned to AAA by the Reds. They optioned him to AAA Louisville yesterday. He made headlines. We've talked about him over the last couple weeks because he homered 5 times in his first 6 Major League games. But you haven't heard of him much lately, have you? Okay? 5 strikeouts and no walks with a 1-for-16 record in 4 games since, and he started only 1 of the last 3 games. He's only 23, so you do have to give him some time. And also, TJ Friedel, the biggest disappointment of my season, is coming back once again. And you can imagine he'll probably be hurt by next weekend, and Rhys Hines will be back up to play. But as of now, he was optioned back to AAA so that they could make room for TJ Friedel to come back from injured list. What is this, the 3rd, 4th, 5th time TJ Friedel is coming back from injured this year? I'm not even excited anymore, okay? I'll still put him in my lineup, though, like an idiot. 3 MLB teams have hit more home runs this season than the Oakland Athletics. Only 3. If you can believe that, now let me read it again. There's only 3 teams in baseball that have hit more home runs than Oakland. Yes, that's right. The worst team in baseball. One of the worst teams. I gotta give the worst team in baseball credit to the either the Rockies or the White Sox, right? Probably the White Sox. All right. Total bases since July 14th is Lawrence Butler, 42. Guess who's second on the list with the most total bases since July 14th? We have a trivia going on with the chat room. Now, I'd like to give you an opportunity to answer this question while I continue to read some other nuggets. But the question is, the most total bases in baseball since July 14th is Lawrence Butler with 42. Who's second with the most total bases since July 14th? Obviously, this is a player that's very hot right now. But to be honest, he's having a good season overall. So, who has the second most total bases since July 14th? The first goes to Lawrence Butler. Number 2. All right. We only have 1 tidbit, so you better get your asses in gear and start guessing the trivia. I should have put this at the top so we had a lot more time, okay? But we don't. We only have 1 more tidbit, so you guys start answering the question. Leonard Donaldson got the first answer, and it's not right. Trey Turner, good guess, but it's not right. Who has the second most total bases in baseball right after Lawrence Butler since July 14th? All right, now less than 24 hours after beefing up their lineup with the acquisition of Randy Arozarena, The Mariners bolstered their bullpen by acquiring Yimi Garcia from the Blue Jays. They gave up Jonathan Clase and minor league catcher Jacob Sharp to Toronto for Yimi Garcia, but they did add Randy Arozarena. So when I complained about the Mariners not adding hitters, which they desperately need right now, okay, I would say they need a first baseman, but I'm not sure about that. I just know they need hitters bad. They have the worst batting average in the league, so it's no wonder that the Astros passed them up like they were stopped on the side of the road. It's not Fitzgerald. Good guess, though. McNeil is not the answer, and I'm going to give you the answer because I'm done now. That would be Jarren Duran with 32 total bases since July 14th. You were thinking outside the box, Boston Paul, when you should have been thinking about your own Red Sox over there. Jarren Duran, 32 total bases since July 14th. Another good answer by Owens. Brent Rooker is a great guess. We know Brent Rooker is on a tear right now, okay? Isn't he an athletic? I think that's probably part of the reason why there's only 3 MLB teams in baseball that have more home runs than... All right, let's do that. What are the 3 teams that have hit more home runs than the Athletics? And you're going to have to give me a second to go ahead and look this up, all right? I got to go to the stats page. What are the 3? I'm going to guess. You know, the first team that comes to mind, which I know this is not right, but of course the first team that came to my mind, the first guess that I wanted to say was Atlanta. But they're having such a bad season. Let's look at the team stats. The team for home run this year, and it's obviously not Atlanta, although Atlanta is ranked 10th. Eddie, are you still there? This one's for you, Eddie. There's only 3 teams that have hit more homers than the Oakland Athletics. Isn't that striking, okay? The Mets haven't hit as many homers. The Phillies haven't hit as many homers, okay? It's unbelievable. And by the way, Toronto is down at the bottom of the list, 27th overall in homers. But anyway, the top 3 are relatively easy to figure out. Now, I know them by heart, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to the chat room and see if you guys are guessing, because this is fun. And, you know, like I said, the team that first comes to mind when I say this was the Atlanta Braves, and they're just having such a bad season. But, yes, Orioles is right, absolutely. Unholy gets it with the Orioles, and Leonard Donaldson guesses his favorite team, the Astros, and that's not true. It's not the Astros. The Orioles are there. The Dodgers, Captain Danny, are there. The Mets are actually below the Athletics in home runs. And it is the Yankees. It's the Orioles, the Dodgers, and the Yankees, and then the Athletics, and then the Mets come right after that. Don't worry, we're right in the spot where we want to be, Big Al on the prowl. We're right there. This is exactly where you want to be at this time of the year. Competitive, but not at the top, not trying to hold on, just competitive. And the Mets are absolutely one of the best teams in baseball right now. And so, yes, the Athletics. And I think that has to do, Brent Rooker. That's why I brought this whole damn thing up, okay? So anyway, it's over for me. I'm going to now end the podcast, and I'm going to tell you all that we will be here again every day at 9 a.m., not just to talk fantasy baseball, but to talk just baseball in general. We love to do it. We love our chat room, and we love doing this every day. So we'll see you tomorrow for Lady and the Legend. What's your problem, Lenny?
None.
Okay. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.